Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are doing something a little meta.
A bit behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Usually you tune in and we unpack a specific topic, history or tech or biology. We give you the what. But today, we are peeling back the curtain to look at the how.
Right.
We're talking about the architecture of learning itself.
It's kind of the difference between eating a meal and walking into the kitchen to see how the chef actually prepared it.
That is exactly it. And
Mhm.
honestly, I think everyone thinks they understand teaching until they actually try to do it.
Oh, yeah.
You think, well, I know this information, I'll just say it out loud, and then you'll know it. Simple transfer.
Which is pretty much the biggest lie in communication. I mean, if it were that simple, we'd all be geniuses after one lecture. But the reality is that information transfer is easy, but learning is a design challenge.
So to help us solve this challenge, we are looking at a really fascinating piece of source material today. It's a visual framework, basically a blueprint titled W.R.I.T.E Good Lessons.
Right, good lessons.
Right. And I have to say, looking at this diagram, it doesn't look like a standard lesson plan at all. It looks like an engineering schematic.
It really does.
We've got funnels, we've got concentric circles, we've got these phases labeled complicated versus complex, and strangely enough, a very specific case study involving a brown bear.
The brown bear is definitely the star of the show today. But you're right to notice that engineering vibe. This framework treats a lesson not as a performance, but as a system.
A system.
Yeah, a system that has inputs, filters, and a very specific output.
So our mission today is to decode this blueprint. We're going to unpack that W.R.I.T.E acronym, figure out why the diagram distinguishes between things that are merely clear and things that are complex. And then we're going to walk through this brown bear case study to see how you actually build a lesson that sticks.
Let's dive in.
Okay, let's start with the framework itself. W.R.I.T.E. It's an acronym. The W stands for well-designed. And the diagram explicitly tags this as clear. Now, to me, design usually feels subjective, artistic.
Right.
But the framework says it should be clear. What does that mean here?
In this context, think of well-designed as the logistics or the environment. It's binary.
Like a checklist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is the room set up? Do the handouts exist? Is the technology actually working? Is the font readable? It's labeled clear because there is no ambiguity. You either prepared the space or you didn't.
So this is the container. If the container is leaking, it doesn't matter what expensive wine you pour into it.
Precisely. It's the invisible skeleton. If the design is sound, you don't even notice it.
Right.
But if the design is poor, say the audio is crackling or the chairs are facing the wrong way, it becomes an obstacle. It's the clear foundation you build everything else on.
Moving to the next letter, R, rationale. Now the tag here changes. It's labeled complicated.
Yes.
And this is where I start to get really interested. I feel like we use complicated and complex as synonyms all the time. But this framework actively separates them. Why is the rationale, the whole why are we doing this part, considered complicated?
This is a crucial distinction in systems theory, and it applies perfectly to education. Think of a car engine.
Okay.
A car engine is complicated. It has pistons, valves, spark plugs, thousands of moving parts. But if you have the manual and the expertise, you can take it apart and put it back together perfectly. It is a solvable puzzle.
Okay, so complicated means lots of parts, but predictable rules.
Exactly. The rationale of a lesson is like that engine. It involves multiple moving parts. You've got curriculum standards, learning goals, the sequence of skills. You have to justify why this topic comes before that topic. It's a mechanical assembly of requirements. It requires expertise to assemble, but once it's built, it's static. It doesn't change on its own.
So you can write the rationale on a piece of paper, lock it in a drawer, and it stays the same.
Correct. It's a logical argument.
Which brings us to the shift, and this is where it gets messy. The letter I stands for inclusive, and this is labeled complex.
Right.
So what is the difference between the complicated rationale and complex inclusivity?
If the car engine is complicated, the traffic jam is complex.
Oh, I like that.
In a traffic jam, you have independent agents, drivers, making split-second decisions that affect everyone else. One person brakes, the person behind them swerves, and suddenly traffic stops 3 miles back.
Yeah. Ripples.
Yeah, you cannot predict exactly what will happen. Inclusive refers to the students, the actual humans in the room.
Because humans are unpredictable.
Exactly. You can have the perfect rationale, the engine, but as soon as actual humans walk into the room, you enter the realm of complexity. Diversity, mood, background knowledge. Did they eat breakfast? Are they fighting with a friend?
So many variables.
Dynamic variables. You can't solve inclusivity with a manual like you can an engine. You have to navigate it in real time.
That's a huge mental shift. You can plan the rationale, but you can only manage the inclusivity.
And that's where a lot of educators and, frankly, managers fail. They try to treat people like a complicated problem, just another cog in the machine to be fixed.
Instead of a complex adaptive system that needs to be understood.
Exactly.
The next letter really reinforces this idea of management. Key is for timing and tautness, also labeled complex. Now, tautness is a word I don't see often in pedagogy. It makes me think of a rope or sail.
Or a guitar string. It's about tension. A lesson needs a certain level of tension to maintain engagement. If the line is too slack, say there's too much dead air, awkwardly long pauses, wandering off topic, the brain checks out. There's no pull.
But if it's too tight,
Rushing through slides, talking way too fast, high pressure, the brain snaps or panics, the learner just shuts down.
and that's complex because the perfect tension changes depending on the room.
Exactly. 9 a.m. on a Monday requires a totally different tautness than 4 p.m. on a Friday. You're constantly adjusting the tension on the fly. You're reading the room. That's why it's not just timing, which is looking at a clock.
Right.
It's tautness, which is feeling the energy. You cannot pre-script that.
And finally, entry and exit points. And here we return to the label clear.
We bookend the complexity with clarity. Just like the physical design needs to be clear, the boundaries of the experience need to be sharp.
The brain craves starts and finishes.
It does. It needs to know we are crossing the threshold now, and we are closing the door now.
It's like a flight. The flight itself might be turbulent and complex, but the takeoff and the landing need to be distinct. You don't want a complex landing.
No, you definitely want a clear landing. If you have a messy exit, the whole lesson feels unresolved.
So looking at the whole acronym, there's this really interesting symmetry. You have W&E on the outside, design and entry and exit, which are rigid, clear boundaries. Then inside, you have the rationale, which is complicated mechanics. And then deep inside that, you have the human elements inclusive and timing, which are complex.
It creates a safe container. The clear boundaries hold the complex chaos of learning together. If you don't have the clear boundaries, the complex parts just feel like a mess.
Right.
But the boundaries are strong. The complexity actually feels like exploration.
That is a really powerful way to look at it. Now let's zoom out and look at how this fits into the visual metaphor in the diagram. We have a funnel.
Yes, the classic funnel shape.
At the top left, feeding into the funnel, is a green circle labeled Lesson 2. And then the funnel itself is labeled with our W.R.I.T.E framework. And pouring out of the bottom is Lesson 3.
This implies a continuous flow. A lesson isn't an island. You don't just conjure it out of thin air. The output of the previous session, Lesson 2, is the raw material for this one. It goes into the funnel.
Then the framework filters it.
Exactly. The W.R.I.T.E framework acts as the processing plant. It refines that raw material.
And what comes out isn't just a list of facts. The diagram shows Lesson 3 not as a block of text, but as this target shape. It has concentric circles labeled A through G, all spiraling in towards a red heart in the center.
That visual is key. The goal of the process isn't just to cover material. It's to distill it down to that central heart, that emotional or core understanding.
The spiral.
Right. The spiral shows us that we don't just hit the student with the main point immediately. We circle it. We approach it from different angles, A, B, C, D, getting closer and closer until we hit the core.
So let's walk through those concentric circles. This is where the brown bear case study comes in. The diagram breaks down Lesson 3 into components A through G. Let's start with the outer ring. A is labeled song.
Specifically rhythm patterns.
The visual shows a video player with the text brown bear. Brown bear. Why start here? Why is music the outer ring?
Think about the entry we just talked about. Rhythm is a primitive entry point. Before a child, or really any learner, can process complex meaning, they can process pattern.
Right.
A song establishes a cadence. It synchronizes the group. It's a sensory entry point that gets everyone moving at the exact same speed.
It sets the tautness right away.
Exactly. It tunes the guitar strings.
Then we move inward to B, slice of life. This one has a photo of a baby eating with an adult holding a book nearby. The label is 3 Baby Plus book. But look at the key concept underneath. In life and realized at point of reflection.
Realized at point of reflection. That is the most important phrase in this entire diagram.
Unpack that for me, because a baby picture seems pretty simple.
It is simple, but the function is profound. Learning doesn't happen when I'm pouring information into your ear. Learning happens when you stop, pause, and connect what I said to something you already know. That's the reflection.
A pause.
The pause. The slice of life component, the photo of the real baby, isn't the content, it's the context. It bridges the gap between the lesson and the world.
Making it real.
Yeah, the learner sees the baby and thinks, hey, I have a baby brother, or I used to be a baby. It grounds the abstract lesson in their personal reality.
So the lesson isn't just reading the book. It's seeing a baby read the book.
Yeah.
It mirrors the learner's reality.
Exactly. It says this isn't just schoolwork, this is life work.
Moving on to see story plays. The visual here shows some graphics of bears with speech bubbles. The text says, 3, what is it? And the key concept is engineered context.
Notice the shift. We went from slice of life, which is messy and natural, to engineered context. This is a simulation. It's artificial. We've stripped away the background noise of the real world to focus on one specific thing, the question, what is it?
It's like a laboratory or a sandbox.
Yes. You can't learn effectively if you're always in the chaos of the real world. Sometimes you need a simplified space where the variables are controlled. That's the engineered context, a safe place to practice the concept without distraction.
And that leads perfectly into phonics and words. The visual shows the sentence, what do you see? But the you is highlighted in red. The label is bottom-up skills.
This is the mechanics, the nuts and bolts. To read the book, you need to decode the symbols. Bottom up means starting with the smallest units, the phonics, the letters, and building up to meaning.
This is usually the boring part of school.
It is. It's dry, it's mechanical, but it's absolutely necessary. You can't write poetry if you can't spell.
But then, and this is where the diagram does something I didn't expect, immediately after bottom-up skills, we go to ebook. But it's not the Brown Bear book yet. It's a book about the Dengon story.
Right. The visual shows a book cover with a blue bear and a tiger. This is the Korean Foundation myth. The myth of Dangun involves a bear and a tiger praying to become human.
And the label here is top-down wisdom.
Contrast that with D, bottom-up skills.
Okay, let's unpack that. Bottom-up versus top-down. Why are we mixing a Korean myth into a phonics lesson?
Because phonics are boring. Decoding words is hard, repetitive work. You need a why. Top-down wisdom gives you the archetype, it gives you the cultural significance of the bear.
It elevates it.
It does. It says, we aren't just reading the word bear because it's on the test. We are reading it because bears are central to our culture, our stories, our identity.
So D is about how to read, and E is about what we read and why it matters.
Yes. And notice, E is also tagged with realized at point of reflection.
Just like the baby photo.
Exactly. So look at the structure here. We have 2 reflection points. One is slice of life, anchoring the lesson in your personal reality. The other is top-down wisdom, anchoring it in our shared cultural reality.
Wow.
And the skills, the phonics, are just the ladder you use to climb between them.
That is beautiful. It connects the personal to the universal.
If you leave out the wisdom, you're just training robots to decode text. If you leave out the skills, you're just telling bedtime stories. You need the handshake between the two.
The handshake, I really like that.
Yeah.
So we have the wisdom. Now, F game. The visual is a box called Brown Bear Memory, and the concept is social interactions.
We've been very internal so far, thinking about my life, decoding my words, listening to a story. Now we have to externalize it. Social interactions. Can I use this knowledge with another human being?
Going back to the framework, this fits the inclusive and complex parts. A game creates unpredictable variables.
Exactly. A game tests whether you can apply what you learned in a dynamic environment. If you can navigate the game, it proves you own the material. It tests the tautness of your understanding.
And finally, G, another book. But this is the classic Eric Carl Brown Bear, what do you see cover. The label is meaningful maps.
Meaningful maps. I love this
I
term.
usually think of maps as geography.
In learning theory, a map is how you navigate a concept. Think about that specific book. Brown bear sees a red bird sees a yellow duck. It's a categorization system.
Oh, I see.
It maps colors to animals. It creates a schema in the child's mind, a way to organize the world.
So it's not just a story, it's a filing cabinet.
Exactly. It maps the chaos of the world into manageable categories. It gives the learner a structure to store all the information they just acquired.
So looking at this whole spiral, A through G, we start with rhythm to sync the brain, touch on real life for personal context, practice in a simulation, build bottom-up skills, connect to top-down wisdom, play a social game to test it, and end with a meaningful map to organize it.
It's quite a journey.
And where does it all lead? To the heart.
The heart, that's the synthesis. That's where the student doesn't just know the material, they feel it. It becomes part of them.
Is that just a poetic way of saying they remembered it?
I think it's more than memory. Memory is storage. The heart implies integration. It means the content has been processed through the personal slice of life and the cultural dangun myth, tested in the social game, and mapped mentally. It's not just something they can repeat, it's something they are.
It's fascinating how the diagram balances these opposing forces.
Yeah.
You have the bottom-up phonics fighting for attention with the top-down Dangun story.
It's not fighting, though. It's that handshake again. You need the skills to access the wisdom, but you need the wisdom to be motivated to learn the skills.
I'm going to go back to that realize that point of reflection tag one more time. We see it on the baby and the myth. Why is reflection the key word there?
Because in our fast-paced world, we often skip the pause. We think teaching is about talking. But if you don't give the learner space to reflect, to look at that baby photo and think, that's me, the neural pathway isn't solidified.
Right.
The W.R.I.T.E framework is designed to facilitate those moments. By being taught having no slack, it keeps you engaged until you hit those reflection points.
It's really a holistic view.
Yeah.
I think so often we treat lessons, whether it's in a classroom or a corporate training seminar, as a checklist. Did I say the vocabulary words? Check. Did I show the slide? Check.
That's focusing only on the complicated part, the rationale, the checklist. But that ignores the complex part, the humans. And it ignores the clear design that holds it all together.
That makes sense.
That's the difference between an activity and a lesson. An activity is just doing something to pass time. A lesson, a good lesson, is well-designed, has a rationale and a destination.
And that destination is the heart.
Which is a lovely way to visualize the goal of education.
It really is.
Yeah.
We're looking at the diagram again, specifically at the funnel. We talked about how lesson 2 feeds into the funnel to create lesson 3.
Right.
And lesson 3 creates this heart. It makes me wonder about the flow of a curriculum. It's not just a linear line. It's a series of funnels.
It's iterative. You take the heart, the core understanding from lesson 3, and that becomes the raw material, the input for lesson 4.
So the output of one becomes the input of the next.
Exactly. If lesson 3 ends with a meaningful map of colors and animals, lesson 4 might take that map and ask, okay, where do these animals live? The heart of this lesson becomes the rationale of the next.
So the heart isn't a trophy case. It's fuel. It's blood.
That changes the perspective on curriculum entirely. It's not a straight line, it's a biological cycle. You build a strong heart in lesson 3 so it can pump the complex ideas of lesson 4.
And if you build a weak heart in lesson 3, say if you skip the reflection or you ignore the inclusivity, then lesson 4 is going to starve.
It won't have the pressure behind it to succeed.
It really highlights how fragile the whole ecosystem is. You know, looking at this W.R.I.T.E framework, well-designed, rational, inclusive, taught, it feels like it applies to more than just a classroom.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm thinking about the meetings I sit through, or even how we explain things to our friends.
Try applying it to your next presentation. Is it well-designed? Are your slides actually readable, or is it a mess of tiny text?
Right.
Do you have a rationale? Do the people in the room know why they're there? Are you inclusive? Are you reading the room and adjusting to their mood? Is it taught, or are you rambling for 20 minutes? And do you have a clear exit?
Most meetings fail on tautness alone.
Or rationale. This meeting could have been an email is basically the universal critique of a failed rationale.
And I love the idea of balancing the top-down wisdom with the bottom-up skills in everyday communication. Give people the big vision, the why, but also give them the tactical steps, the how.
The handshake. Always look for the handshake.
So to bring this all back home, we started with a diagram of a brown bear and ended up with a philosophy of cognitive architecture.
That's the deep dive way.
Let's do a quick recap for everyone listening. We started with the W.R.I.T.E framework. W for well-designed, the clear structure. R for rationale, the complicated mechanics. I for inclusive, the complex human element. T for timing and tautness, keeping the tension right. And E for entry and exit points, the clear boundaries.
And we saw how that framework filters raw information into a lesson 3 target, swirling through rhythm, real-life, simulation, skills, wisdom, games, and maps, all aiming for the heart.
It's a lot more work than just standing up and talking.
It is. But that's why it's called the art and science of teaching. It respects the complexity of the learner.
It balances the clear mechanics with the complex human elements. That seems to be the secret sauce. You can't have one without the other.
If you're all mechanics, you're a robot. If you're all humanity, you're chaotic. You need the balance.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a thought about that funnel. We talked about how the heart of one lesson feeds the next.
Yes.
If education is just a series of funnels, At what point does the funnel stop? Or does the output just get infinitely more dense? Does the heart eventually become a star?
Or does it eventually become the teacher? Maybe the final output of the final funnel is the ability to build a funnel for someone
The
else.
student becomes the architect. I like that.
It closes the loop.
Huge thank to everyone for listening. Next time you're trying to teach someone something, whether it's a toddler tying their shoes or a CEO learning a new software, ask yourself, is it W-R-I-T-E? Check your taughtness. Find that point of reflection and aim for the heart.
And watch out for the brown bears.
Always watch out for the bears. Thanks for diving deep with us. See you next time.